else's as well. Celeste,
FCC
Cindy?
TV is turning live now, so if we can wait till Celeste can confirm live feed. Thank you.
We should be fine, Cindy. It's going, and you know we're on a delay, so.
All right, are we ready to go?
I'm waiting for Michael to give me a heads up.
And Mr. Mayor, Mr. Snyder is on a cell phone this evening. You'll see, in case he raises his hand, the phone number is Mr. Snyder.
Okay, how can he raise his hand if he's on the telephone?
Oh, that's right. He can't do that. I'm sorry. He'll have to just cut in then.
And we are live and good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, again, welcome to the June 14th, 2021 meeting of the Falls Church City Council. We're pleased you're able to join us tonight. My apologies at the outset for some short delay for technical difficulties. Those have been resolved and we are ready to go. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask the clerk or the assistant city manager to read our virtual meeting notice and take roll, please.
Yes, thank you. This is a regular meeting, and the meeting, this meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2-3708.2, and state and local legislation adopted to allow for continued government operation during the COVID-19 declared emergency. All participating members of City Council are present at this meeting through electronic means, and members of the public are welcome to view the meeting at www.fallschurchva.gov/council meetings and on Falls Church cable television stations Cox 11, RCN 2, and Verizon 35. Public comments were accepted virtually for those who signed up before the meeting, and public comments are also collected at cityclerk@fallschurchva.gov.
All right. Will you please call roll?
Yes. Ms. Conley?
You're muted. You're muted, Mary Beth.
I've got the mute problem tonight. Here.
Thank you. Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Ms. Hardy?
Here.
Mr. Litkenhouse is absent. Ms. Shantz-Hiscott?
Here.
Mr. Snyder?
Here.
And Mayor Charter?
Here.
Thank you. And as I noted before, Mr. Snyder is joining via cell phone, and he's hoping that his connection will stay stable, but he wanted me to let you know that.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the effort to join us from the West Coast where you are now. We appreciate it. So let's go on. And if you would all please join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And now we are on to the receipt of public comment. Madam Clerk, any public comment?
Yes, we do have some written comments.
All right.
Dave Rifkin of 126 Whittier Circle requested sidewalk repairs in Whittier Park. Sean Dakin suggested possible uses for federal funds, including fully protected bike lanes and red light cameras from Seven Corners to the high school, and a reduction in water bill and stormwater fees. The Citizens Advisory Committee on Transportation provided their evaluations and recommendations for safer bicycle routes to the middle and high schools, and also provided their approved Great Falls, Little Falls traffic calming and pedestrian safety project. The Environmental Sustainability Council provided their recommendations for electric vehicle infrastructure at developments seeking zoning special exceptions, And the Citizens for a Better City Executive Committee wrote to express strong support for the Village Preservation and Improvement Society's call for strengthening efforts to meet established climate change goals.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment here now live?
I did not have anybody sign up this evening.
All
Thank
right,
you.
let's move on to council requests. Are there any council requests? Okay, let's move on to the report of the city manager, Mr. Shields.
I see that Vice Mayor Connolly has her hand up.
Oh, okay. All right. Ms. Conley, you are muted. And you are still muted. But you're talking. I can see your mouth moving.
Oh, there you are. You got it.
And you're on
All
mute.
right. I'm not touching it again. The Whittier Park sidewalk question, that has come up before, and I just need to be refreshed on the answer to that. And as far as Mr. Dakin's request on the ARPA funds, City Council has talked a lot about the best disposition of that funds, how we're going to figure that out. And I just want to put a plea in that we need to figure out how we're going to figure that out very soon. And I don't know if that needs to go through Budget and Finance Committee or it really needs to be a committee of the whole City Council working on that, along with staff and our partners at the schools.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hardy.
I had one of the same requests as the Vice Mayor as the ARPA funds and the next steps on that. And then in response to several boards and commissions who's written us recently with recommendations or requests for us to follow up. And I think we've talked about this before, but it feels like we should just schedule in a bunch of joint work sessions with our boards again, potentially at the end of the summer when we resume in September. I think we've gotten something from the CACT this week and the ESC, and I think we've gotten some from others in the past.
All right. Sounds like a good idea. Thank you. Any other comments? Let's go to Mr. Shields. Wyatt?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Tarter, members of council. I'll touch on a number of items in my report. I'll try to touch on each of them concisely, but I'll start with the America Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. And as was just noted, we had a good discussion last week about the 4 categories of uses of those funds and some broad outlines of the strategic objectives that staff has put forward for council's considerations on the use of those funds. What is new since last week is that we have gotten the formal word from the state government confirming the allocation amounts. Then they are as we thought that they were going to be. We had conducted our own calculation of what we thought the dollar amounts would be, and the state then confirmed that. So the city will be receiving in total then just over $9 million this fiscal year, and then an additional $9 million in total next fiscal year. And we will then have 4 fiscal years to encumber those funds and use them for the community and our recovery from COVID. And so that's the update on that, just in terms of the numbers. In terms of a process, we will be circling back with council on further work on the allocation of these funds, and ultimately we'll engage the entire community in the form of a budget amendment that we anticipate would be before council in the July-August timeframe, best case. The staff right now is trying to flesh out some of those strategic objectives that were discussed, just to provide the council with a structure and some sort of the main ideas of, 1, what we think is eligible, and 2, our thoughts on highest return and best value for the taxpayers and residents of the city. So more to come on that, but the only update was just to note that the allocation amount has now been set by the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is the pass-through entity of those federal dollars. A couple other things to report on. The library As you can see out on the street, the library, a lot of the site work is being done right now. The brick pavers are going in. The finished paving is going in. Furniture is going to be moving in shortly. Centennial is contractually obligated to hit substantial completion on June 25th of this month. We will then be moving staff in and getting all the systems set up and getting the shelves filled with books again. And we're anticipating that it will be open to the public then in late July. And we'll have an announcement of that date soon. And we're looking forward to that celebration of the opening of a magnificent new library facility for the city. Councilmember Vice Mayor Connolly has her hand up.
Just a quick thing. When you make that announcement, can there be an addition to the banner? Because a lot of people won't see the announcement online, but they drive by it all the time and they'll see the banner. And I'm wondering if there can just be a poster next to the banner or an addition there, and then one down at TJ as well.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great idea.
Thank you. That was my husband's idea. I'll give him credit for that.
Yep. Yeah. In terms of other updates, South Washington Street, you can see on the, I guess the north side of Washington Street that the brick pavers are going in now. We had a delay because of essentially COVID-related supply chain disruptions, and the firm that the city had ordered the bricks from didn't have any brick product for us, so we had to shift gears and get bricks from a different company. And those have now arrived on the site and are being installed as we speak. Once that is done, then all the other sort of finishes on that side of the street will go in, and we'll then shift the major construction over to the south side of South Washington Street, and that work will then carry on. But we want to create a stable situation for all the businesses on the north side of the street, and we do apologize for the delay that was caused by that the supply of bricks that I just noted. I want to close my report tonight just by noting our attention to cybersecurity as an organization. We are we've been in a period of time over many years of just escalating cyber attacks, and local governments, unfortunately, are one of the prime targets of ransomware and other malware attacks to seize our data and do other damage, both to people who use our systems, but also for our ability to do our work and deliver services here as a city. So we're doing what we can to protect against that. That includes fortifying centrally in terms of our ITS systems, and our staff are dedicated to that, but also very importantly, training for all of our employees. So many of the attacks originate from the users of the system clicking a link in an email or opening an attachment from a bad actor, and bad things happen when staff are not well trained how to identify those. So we've been doing that now for a period of time, but we have increased that along with testing for employees that will be ongoing, so that if we do have employees who are failing those tests, it can be addressed. It's a big effort. It's an important effort, and I'm sure we'll have more to say on it in the future, but I just wanted the community to be aware that we are doing what we can to protect their data and to keep our system secure. That's my report tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Oh, there was a question, I'm sorry, about Whittier Place sidewalks. So Zach Bradley, our Director of Public Works, has been in regular contact with the president of the Whittier Place HOA and residents there. We are planning sidewalk improvements in that neighborhood, and we're just going through with the neighborhood to triage, the most important areas to address, and also how to address some of the underlying issues. So I think we are making progress, and we may be coming back to City Council for a budget amendment for improvements in that area as part of a larger budget amendment for sidewalk improvements in other parts of the city as well. That's my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duncan has a question. Phil?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So good news on ARPA and library and cybersecurity and sidewalks. So tell me some more good news that will make me happy about our vaccine rate, which I noticed in today's report is lingering unspectacularly at something like 55% fully vaccinated, a number which I'm find disappointing for a jurisdiction of our caliber. What's the prognosis for us reaching the goal the president has set for 70%? And is there anything that we can do to try to get the number up above that, with the awareness that the new strain of virus is said to be more contagious and more lethal, except for those who've been vaccinated, in which case vaccines serve as a wonderful protection. What are we doing as everybody goes off to summer about trying to get people's arms shot up?
Well, I think the points you make are exactly on point. We did have our briefing on Friday with the health department, and we did discuss the Delta variant, which is a variant of concern, which is a technical term, meaning that they're monitoring it very closely. And one of the key points for us in terms of how to protect ourselves, should it become the dominant strain in the United States, which I think many health experts are expecting that it will be, that the vaccines that we have now protect against it. That is the key thing for people to know. And I agree with you personally that I'm surprised at the vaccination numbers sort of having they're still increasing, but they have not gone up above that 70% mark that is the president has set out as our goal by the 4th of July. And so it's been a massive nationwide effort to get information about it. I'll take anybody's creative ideas on how we can do better locally. We're certainly open to all ideas and doing everything we can. It's what needs to be done right now.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that concern. I mean, I'm sure others have opinions about what we should do, but the old admonition to eat your vegetables before you have dessert comes to mind for me. I mean, we are behaving in our activity scheduling and meeting planning and so forth as if this pandemic is, over or close to it. And I think we're just not where we need to be. I mean, I think we need to get the public's attention somehow that, business is not going to go on as usual and events are not going to be occurring as planned unless we can meet, at least the baseline that the president has set out of 70% vaccinated by, 1st of August. I mean, let's give ourselves a little extension beyond the 4th of July. But as we head into, the Turner Hill Festival in August and the Fall Festival in September, we are doing super spreading events without the vaccine numbers to warrant that, in my opinion.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Shields? All right, let's go on to business on the agenda. Madam Clerk, would you like to call the first item?
Yes. We have TO 21-10, ordinance to create and establish the West Falls Community Development Authority, and this is on first reading.
Mr. Shields?
Thank you, Mayor Tarter, members of council. I'll say at the outset that there has been a request by the City Council to have a closed session to discuss the comprehensive agreement with Falls Church Gateway Partners prior to formal consideration of this item tonight. So I just want the public to be aware of that request, and I anticipate that there will be a motion to do that. And before we get to that, just for the public's benefit, I'll just make a few notes on what this item is and what is being asked of the city with this ordinance. and I'll ask the city attorney to add to my report with any key points that she would make as well. We do have outside legal counsel reporting to our city attorney that is helping us with the creation, with the legal documents to create this community development in a way that mitigates risk for the city. But in short, for the public's benefit, as part of the comprehensive agreement with Falls Church Gateway Partners, there is a provision calling for this ordinance to be considered by the City Council, and the development team has requested it. And what it would do is essentially have the ability to issue bonds to help pay for the public infrastructure that would go in the 10-acre site known as West Falls. And on that 10-acre site would then be imposed a special assessment that would cover the debt service required for the bonds to pay for that infrastructure. The remainder of the taxpayers of the city would not be liable for that debt, and the city would not have any moral or other backing for the debt either. Nonetheless, the CDA would be an agency appointed by the City Council, and so we want to make sure that the city's interests are protected in every step of this process. We have received a petition by the future leaseholders and future owners of this site. That includes the EDA. The intent is for the City Council to transfer title of the 10-acre site to the EDA, and the EDA then will execute a 99-year ground lease with Falls Church Gateway Development Partners for the development of the site. So the EDA is one of the petitioners, Falls Church Gateway Partners is one of the petitioners, as well as some of their additional counterparties, such as Trammell Crow, who is the intended office developer for the site, just as an example. So that's a quick summary of the request. Let me turn it over to the city attorney, Carol McCoskrie, if there's anything that she would add, and then we would be happy to answer any questions.
I would just note that this is really the first step in the first phase of a financing for this infrastructure. At this time, you're being asked to give first reading to an ordinance that will create and establish the Community Development Authority, which is a way of funding improvements more quickly than they could otherwise be done. Even when this ordinance is approved on second reading, it'll create the CDA, but no bonds would be issued until further action is taken by both the board of directors of the CDA as well as by council. So the issuance of bonds and the whole financing structure would come back to you before that actually goes forward. So I think other than that, I think Mr. Shields has covered it. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
All right, and so there may be some questions here in public. If the legal questions can be covered in our closed session as well, so keep in mind those are appropriate for a closed session, the legal questions, that is, as opposed to open session. Are there questions, though, at this point on the CDA? All right, so that's going to be short work, at least for the moment. Then I'm going to go ahead and keep moving on the agenda with the idea that after we come out of closed session, after any questions that might be there, legal questions, we can entertain a motion if so desired and come back into open session. But first, I think there is interest in having a closed session to discuss remaining issues appropriate for closed session. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Mr. Shields?
Thank you, Mayor Tarter. The item on the consent agenda is the authorization for the city manager to sign a one-year agreement with the Friends of the Falls Church Homeless Shelter and the City of Falls Church. This is something we do on an annual basis. The shelter was closed all of last year due to COVID. It is the intention, with some modification of their procedures, that they will open as a hypothermia shelter this winter. So that's the request with this item.
All right, is there any questions or comments, Ms. Hardy?
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, is there any further discussion on this matter?
Mr.
If
Mayor,
not-
there also is an appointment on the consent.
Okay,
I just wanted to make sure everybody saw that.
all right, and so Ms. Hardy, your motion included that as well, correct?
Yes, both items.
Okay,
Thank you.
and your second as well, Ms. Hiscott, included both items?
Correct.
All right,
Correct.
let's go on to the vote then, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Ms. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Lickenhouse is absent, Ms. Shantz Hiscott,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder. I don't know if he's still, I think he had to step off. Mayor Tarter,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0. Thank you, council.
Thank you. All right, let's see what else we've got in the agenda before we go into closed session. So is there any other business that people would like to discuss? Any comments, requests, council liaison reports? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. So unless there's anything else before I move into closed session, I'm going to go ahead and read a closed session motion. Presuming we go into closed session, we will come out of closed session, come back into open session, and we may take action on the CDA, the ordinance regarding the CDA. So hopefully we won't be too long in closed session. My apologies for those viewing. You will not be able to observe the closed session proceedings, but we would be coming back out hopefully in the not too distant future once we're back able to come in an open session. But I'm going to go ahead and read a motion, see if there's support to go into closed session. Upon a motion made by Council Member Hiscott and seconded by Council Member, contain your enthusiasm for this, everyone.
Connolly.
Connolly, okay. And passed by a vote of City Council. Council went in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A8 for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Contract discussions regarding the comprehensive agreement for the West Falls Church Economic Development Projects and issues relating to the establishment of a community development authority. And pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3 for the discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. Vice Mayor Connolly?
Yes.
Duncan?
Yes.
Hardy?
Yes.
Lichtenhouse is absent. Hiscott?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder, you on the phone? So he's absent at the present as well. And Tarter, yes? All right, so let's take a short break to go into closed session. Let's make sure that we are in fact in closed session and reconvene in 5 minutes at 8:09. Thank you all.
All right, have confirmation. We just need to get the city clerk back.
I'm back.
All right, we ready to come out of
Excellent.
closed session?
I have confirmation FCC TV is live.
All right, great. Welcome. We're back out from closed session, ready to come in open session. We are going to take care of a little business before we do that. Upon a motion made by Council Member
Duncan.
seconded by Council Member
Hardy.
Hardy, and passed by a vote of City Council, Council reconvened in open session. Vice Mayor Connolly,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Hardy,
Yes.
Lichtenhouse is absent. Hiscott,
Yes.
Snyder. Looks like he is absent at the
Yeah,
president.
we lost connection again.
All right, and Tartar, yes. All right, it is 9:18. This is our certification upon a motion made by Council Member,
Duncan.
seconded by Council Member,
Hiscott.
and passed by affirmative roll call vote in open session. It was certified that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open, open business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session or meeting by the body. Vice Mayor Connolly,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Hardy,
Yes.
Lichtenhouse is absent. Hiscott,
Yes.
Snyder, absent. Tartar, yes. All right, so we had left off our discussion earlier about the ordinance to create and establish a community development authority. Is there any further discussion on that matter? Does anyone wish to make a motion? All right, well, all right,
Mayor.
we're not, what's that?
Mayor, I move to defer TO 21-10 to the June 28th meeting.
All right. And do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Hiscott on the second. Is there any discussion? Any member of the public wish to speak to this matter? All right, the matter is closed to the public. Madam Clerk, will you go ahead and do a roll call vote?
Yes. Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Ms. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Lichtenhouse is absent. Ms. Shantz Hiscott,
Yes.
is Mr. Snyder here? I don't see him. And Mayor Tartar.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else anyone would like to discuss? I know I asked earlier for standing regional committee liaison reports. Any council member comments?
It's just the question about the ribbon cutting for the transportation project. That's Thursday at 10 o'clock. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
that's correct. Sorry.
So that's been noticed, right? Because they're going to be
Yes.
a number of there. Okay.
It's on your public calendar as an
Good.
invitation event.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, anything else anyone would like to discuss? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
And we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Good evening. We're off early. Enjoy your night, and we'll see each other real soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
council.
Stay safe.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.